Hi everyone, and welcome to another review from Colour with Claire. Today I've got something a little bit different for you. So it's nothing to do with colouring pencils, markers or even colouring books really, but you will be using these in your colouring books I'm sure by the end of this video. So these are Stickles, and what Stickles are a range of very inexpensive, very highly glittery glues, and more people have been using these lately in their colouring books to embellish their colouring finished pieces. Now when I say embellish, these aren't huge. Look at them on my hand, you can see they're little tiny pots, and they were actually created for crafters and card makers. So they are not meant to be used over large areas of your colouring pages or in place of colouring pencils or anything like that. These are meant to embellish and just add a little extra finish to the end of your projects. So Stickles are inexpensive, as I say. They are between £2 to £3 each. So you can get them individually and you can get them in sets as well, which I'll be showing you in a moment. And there are all different colours and types that you can get. So we'll just go through the sets that you can get at the moment. I have 3 out of the 4 sets that are available. Now this first set here is called Yuletide, and it has the colours Poinsettia, Mistletoe, and then a liquid pearl. This has no glitter in it whatsoever, it's more sort of metallic, and this one's called Jingle Bells. So this is the triple set called Yuletide, and triple sets cost you around about £5, so they really are not expensive at all. Now let's have a look at them one by one. So this is the Poinsettia, and as you can see it has tons of red predominantly, but also quite a bit of green and also gold in there as well. It's absolutely beautiful. Next up is that Mistletoe, which is predominantly green but also quite a bit of red and gold in there as well. But as you can see, even though they are pretty much the same colours, they look very different, and that's just the different predominances of the colour. So this one's mainly green, this one's mainly red, and then that liquid pearl is just a beautiful gold colour. Next up we have the Trimmings set, and this contains tinsel, garland and another liquid pearl which is alpine. The tinsel one is a very frozen sort of type of colour. It's got a lot of blue and a lot of silver, so I absolutely love that one. It really reminds me of that kind of frozen colour palette. Next up is Garland, and this one is predominantly gold and red, and the gold is just a little bit more bronzer in this garland than, for example, the gold in the Poinsettia. And then of course you have the alpine liquid pearl. And then the third set is the Sugar Plum set, and this contains the colours Gumdrop, Fairy Dust and the liquid pearl Frosted Berry. So if we just have a look at the Gumdrop, you can see that it's mostly purple, but it has an awful lot of pink in there as well, and also a little bit of green and blue. Next is the Fairy Dust, and this has loads of red and pink in it. And then that liquid pearl Frosted Berry. Now there are individual ones you can get, and there are a lot of different kind of clear type ones. There's crystal and stardust, as I've got here. There's diamond, there's loads of different sort of clear ones that have predominant colours in them. So as you can see here, this crystal one, hopefully the camera's picking it up, has an awful lot of green in it, whereas the stardust one has tons of different colours and it's quite light and delicate. So there's quite a few different ones you can get, and as I say, you can get them all individually for around £2 to £3. So I'm going to show you how I've been using them in my colouring books, and then we're going to actually swatch them all out so that you can see them all side by side. So first of all, the latest picture that I did where I added the Stickles was this one from Pop Manga Mermaids and Other Creatures by Camilla Derico. And as you can see, I did my own bubbles in the background on this acrylic blue wash, and I added the Stickles to the edges of each bubble. So it's a little bit difficult for me to show you in the light, but hopefully the camera is picking it up, that all of the edges of all of these bubbles are incredibly glittery. Now I did say that these are made for just embellishments, not actually covering large areas, which is true, and the nozzle is what really helps you do that. So if you can see just really close up, it's very, very thin, very narrow, very tapered. So it can get into really small areas of your colouring pages, and it can also do very thin lines as well, like on these bubbles. So you really can use them in a variety of different ways, whether that be, you know, little tiny dots that you want to do on the page, or whether you want to do a full line. It's totally up to you. Now the next thing that I used them in was this one from Hannah Lynn's Fairy Tale Princesses and Storybook Darlings. And I just used a little bit to embellish this page, just around this magic wand here. If I just show you in the light, that one is the predominantly green one, which I think is the crystal one. And it's just stunning, absolutely stunning. Finally, I did a picture from I'm just trying to show you the book, the Sequums colouring book by Emily Jarridge, and I decided to use them on a bit of a larger scale on this one, not massively, but as you can see, I've made sure that all of the butterflies are covered, and I think that I did this one in the tinsel, so you can see what that looks like. It is incredibly glittery and definitely the most effective glitter supply that I have used. So I have the Spectrum Noir sparkle pens. I've also got the Jelly Roll Stardust pens. I've tried the Wink of Stella pens. All the glittery stuff, I've pretty much tried it. And they're all beautiful and very glittery until they dry, and you can just wipe over it with your hand and loads of glitter comes off onto your hand, and it goes very dull on the page. This dries and it sticks. It really does live up to its name, Stickles, because it sticks to the page. You're not going to get any massive residue coming off that whatsoever, and it stays sparkly for as long as possible. So it doesn't just wipe off, it stays sparkly pretty much forever. Okay, so now that I've shown you these sort of in action in colouring books, let's swatch them all out onto my trusty little book of swatches. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to start with the poinsettia. So it's got a screw cap, and as I say, you squeeze it very lightly and it begins to make its way down the nozzle. So I'm just putting a little bit on here, and then you can use the nozzle to spread it. Now I know that some people might want to use a paintbrush to spread it, might think it's easier, but actually the paintbrush bristles clog up with the glitter, and you're actually getting more glitter stuck to your paintbrush than you are on your actual piece, which is obviously not great. So it's actually easier to just use the nozzle to spread it a little bit. Now I'm not going to fill the entire thing, I don't really want to waste any. This is just to show you the different looks all put together. So we've got the mistletoe next. You see how fine a line you can get? And as I say, you can just use dots in little places just like that if you wanted to. If you wanted to add a little sparkle to someone's eye, I did that on the Sequums one. You can definitely do that. So just spreading it around. So I first saw Stickles on the channel Colouring Chat with Sammy. Beautiful, beautiful lady, brilliant channel, go and check her out. And she was using these all the time, and I'd never heard of them. And everything she produced just looked brilliant and had that gorgeous finish. I'm just trying to find Jingle Bells. Here we go. Oh, it's a liquid pearl. I haven't actually tested these much yet. And yeah, so Sammy was using those, and to be honest with you, I don't really use a lot of glitter, or I haven't until now, on my colouring pages, because they don't show up awfully well on photographs. And you know, once I've completed a page, I photograph it and it stays on Instagram or wherever, you know, for prosperity, but the actual page just sits on the shelf in the book. So really, I never really use a lot of glitter, but I've come to appreciate just how stunning the finish can be. And there is actually ways of photographing it, you just have to get the light right. So there's the Jingle Bells. Now we're moving on to the trimming set, and this is that tinsel one that I used on the butterflies of that colouring page. So just going to squeeze it a little bit more because I've used more of this than the others. But a little bit does go a long way. It is incredibly glittery, and definitely more glittery than any other sort of glitter product that I've used. It does also dry 3D, so it's non-settling, which means it doesn't just sink into the paper. So if you wanted to create a sort of embossed look, 3D dots on your colouring page, it will stay 3D and raised from the page. And that's another thing about these as well. If you when you first put them down, you don't think they're that glittery, wait until they're dry. I think it's like when you've got wet hair, when you've washed your hair and it looks really dark and then it dries lighter, and these do kind of the same thing. When they dry, they look more sparkly than they did when they were wet. So we are going to wait for these to dry so you can see what they look like. This is the garland. So this has a lot of gold in it as well as the red. And as I say, there are tons of colours. The sets concentrate on Christmas, which you can probably tell, but there are loads of different colours, loads of purples, pinks, greens, oranges, any kind of colour that you like. It's not all about Christmas and that kind of thing. So this is the Alpine Liquid Pearl. They're actually really nice, these liquid pearls, even though they're not glittery. They are super sort of pearlescent and really nice and shiny. I'm just going to add a little bit more of the poinsettia to that first swatch because I've sort of got the gist of it now, and I'm just going to add a bit more to make that a little bit of a thicker swatch so it looks uniform with the others. A bit better. Okay, next up we've got the Gumdrop from the Sugar Plum series. Now, I have 3 out of the 4 sets. The final set is called Frozen, so you can also buy that. They're really readily available. They have them in a lot of arts and craft shops, but they're all over the internet. You can get them all from Amazon and eBay and places like that. Probably Hobbycraft do them as well. In America, I should imagine that places like Michael's will sell these. But obviously I can't attest to that because I'm not in America, so I can't actually go and find out for you, but I'm sure that they do. So that's a beautiful Gumdrop pink. We then have the Fairy Dust, which is much darker and more red. So let's test this one. And I will be holding these up in the light so that you can see them better. And then the Frosted Berry, which is our final liquid pearl. So I'm just squeezing the colour out, and then without squeezing anymore, I'm just using the nib of the nozzle to spread out the colour. Okay, so finally we've got the 2 clear ones that I own, which are the Crystal and the Stardust. And I do have to say a massive, massive thank you to Jacqueline Bruce, one of my lovely followers here on Colour with Claire, who actually ordered these for me from my Amazon wishlist and sent them to me. I absolutely love them, and you do know now that I need to get the full set. I'm obsessed. Obviously not that you need to buy them, I'm going to be buying them, but I am absolutely obsessed with these Stickles now. So you have started an addiction, Jacqueline. But yes, thank you so much for sending me these. I absolutely adore them. So this is the Crystal, and then the Stardust. Okay, so that is all of the Stickles that I've got swatched out, but as I say, there are probably hundreds more colours. There's tons and tons on Amazon. We'll be leaving all the links in the description. But just while they're wet, let's have a look close up at the colours. So we're looking under the light now, and as you can see, just beautiful. They remind me of the eyeshadows that you can get for Christmas that are just packed with glitter, but these obviously last a lot longer. So absolutely beautiful. And there are those liquid pearl colours. Really lovely, and kind of that wet look, just lovely. But the glitter ones are definitely my favourite. Just have a look at these crystal and stardust as well. And I just love the fact that they don't lose their glitter. I've been really impressed before by glitter products in the first instance, and then they sort of let me down when it's dry and they wipe off, but these don't. So there we go. I'm now going to wait until they're dry and we'll come back and take a look at them then. Okay, so they're all dry now. I'm going to bring them up to the camera so that you can see again what they look like. And I don't really know if you can see the difference from before and now, but certainly to my eye off camera they are loads and loads more glittery, if possible, than they were before. And I don't know what it is, it just, when it dries, they just take on this whole new level of sparkle. And then also we have the beautiful liquid pearl ones as well, which are just super shiny. I love them. I love the colours of these, particularly the green and the pink together. They're really soft and nice and almost like a pastel kind of shade. But as you can hopefully see, they are raised, so wherever you put them they will dry in exactly the same place. So if you do a dot of it, it will dry as a three-dimensional dot. So yeah, just anywhere you want to put them, just be mindful that they will dry as you have applied them. Now just a little note on drying times. So this took around 10 minutes to dry fully, and obviously it depends on how thick a layer you put down. So if you put down a really thick, very solid three-dimensional layer, they're going to take longer to dry fully than they are if you do a very, very light coating. So that's why I'd recommend that you use them as your last embellishment when you've finished your colouring page, so that you can just leave it to dry and you're not sat there waiting to colour the next piece of your page. Now these do not bleed through to the other side of the paper, but because they are a wet media, you may notice that there is some kind of bubbling of the paper, you know, rippling where it's just been wet on the paper. There's nothing you can really do about that, but if that does concern you, then I would recommend you only use these on single-sided books. But I really hope that you've enjoyed looking at these stunningly glittery Stickles today. I hope that it's given you yet another item to add to your list. I'm such an enabler. And thank you so much again to Jackie Bruce for sending me these from my Amazon wish list. I absolutely adore them and I need the lot of them now. I need the whole set to complete my whole Stickles collection. So of course in the description will be the links for you to find Stickles and go and buy them if you wish. Let me know in the comments what you think, and just again, here is that beautiful sparkle. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time on Colour with Claire.